The evolution of game day, did you ever think it would be this big, this kind of
Yeah. I mean, I started in 1996. So this is my 26th year on the show. And when I started, it was a couple hundred people around the set, and the show has grown immensely. Probably took off around 2000, went to a different level. And I think there's a couple things. We decided to go to the biggest game, no matter which network was televising the game. I think fans really appreciated that. And then I think coaches started to kind of embrace the show. And I also think college football, the fan base, the passion, I think we're just kind of symbolic of that, and if we did this for the NFL or MLB, NBA, you wouldn't have the show and the success of the show. So I just think it has a lot to do with the energy around this sport and us being right in the middle of it as often as we can be.
Kirk, most Saturdays you guys find yourselves on a college campus. What's different and unique about being in a city like Charlotte for a neutral site game between two major powers that kind of have to come together?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of neutral site games over the last 10 years or so, in late August, early September. I think it's great. It almost feels like a bowl game. It's what it reminds me of as far as fan bases that show up and they're out eating at the restaurants and they're going to the bars and they're having fun with one another and kind of looking forward to the excitement. I think Charlotte does a great job. This is such a good town. I think it reminds me a lot of Indianapolis as far as a perfect place to host a big sporting event because of all the things to do here. Everything's walking distance, so it's an ideal setup. It's in a really good location for this particular matchup where Georgia fans and Clemson fans can get right into town and be here for 48 hours and go, like I said, eat some good food and just have fellowship. And we missed this so much last year. This sport missed this, and this is a great way to get it started.
What do you think about these two quarterbacks and how they might look tomorrow night? Kind of, we know them a little bit, but not as well as we knew their predecessors.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot more about both of them. JT Daniels, I think, is, he's got experience not just last year in those 4 games, but going back to USC as a freshman. He's very poised. I think he's got to not only make big plays, he's got to avoid the disastrous play. That's going to be big. With DJ Uiagalelei, I think that I was so impressed with him last year when he stepped in, when Trevor went out with COVID. He's a guy that's got tremendous physical abilities. He just doesn't have to feel like he has to live up to Trevor Lawrence. Just take what the defense gives him and make plays. But he's got so much talent around him. He just got to get the ball to the playmakers and let them do their thing. But boy, what a great matchup, not for just the teams, but for the two quarterbacks to kind of see where they are and kind of stack them up in the country.
Do you feel like using his feet and his mobility might be an X factor in this game against that Georgia defense?
For DJ?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny you bring that up because going back to Taj Boyd and Deshaun and Trevor, I've done so many big Clemson games, and the bigger the game, the more the quarterback run game is a factor. So I would think if they follow that, they're going to have to use his legs tonight. Usually it's 15 to 18 carries a game in these bigger games, but he's a different kind of runner. Taj Boyd was a physical runner. Deshaun and Trevor had the ability to get out in space and pick up huge yards. I mean, I haven't seen DJ enough. I mean, he's 250 pounds. He looks like more of a between the tackles kind of runner, like a tight end. And if you take away Trevor Lawrence and what he did, think about what Trevor, when he would get out in the open, he was gone. I mean, he had such a long stride and gait. DJ's not that kind of threat as a runner. So I'm interested to see how Tony Elliott comes up with a new way of attacking without that ability to have not just a quarterback that can run, but a quarterback that can make you really pay for it with his feet. I think DJ looks like a guy that's going to run to throw. Like he's going to scramble. He's not looking to run like Trevor would. He's looking to buy time and then throw the ball downfield. So taking away that aspect of their offense or not having as a dynamic of a runner, we'll see how they adjust to that.
How critical, though, could that potentially be, especially with how difficult it's probably going to be to keep momentum in the run game without Georgia?
And let's face it, Clemson last year could not run the football. That was so different. Since they've been on this run for the last, whatever it is now, 6 or 7 years, the quarterback run has been a big part of that. And controlling the line of scrimmage has been a big part of that. I think if you go back to 19 and 18, they led the nation back-to-back years on yards per carry. So we're not just saying, yeah, they're good at running. Like, they're one of the best in the country. And last year they couldn't run, so they had to throw. And now they come into this year without I think the biggest story for me on Clemson is what do they do without Travis Etienne more than what are they going to do without Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne was everything to that offense over the last 2 or 3 years. And they've got Will Shipley, they got Lynn J. Dixon. They have capable people, but Travis Etienne's one of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of back. So, but they recruit so well. They've developed people, so they'll be fine. But it's just going to be different from what we've seen.
Kirk, is there enough? Are there enough big games to go around as these neutral site games continue to proliferate? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's a willing athletic director and coach to accept them. Miami's playing Alabama, which I think is a good game. I feel that there's a new trend starting where athletic directors are going back to home and home. I don't think there is many of the neutral site. I still think you're going to see them, but I don't know if we're going to see as many as we saw. Going way back, it was just a kickoff classic in East Rutherford, and that was like the only one. And when Jerry Jones built his new stadium, that really became the spot to go for a big game. I can't tell you how many big games I would call week one there. Atlanta has been a site, of course, over the years, and now Charlotte is becoming a place to go. So I like it. I love college football because I love being on a campus. I love the energy of a college campus. It's just so different. But these games, again, they remind me of bowl games where fans are here for 48 hours. They get to hang out in restaurants and bars together, and just it's like fellowship, and that's what makes college football, to me, unique and different from the NFL.
That's up for one more.
Do you see this game getting into the 30s? I mean, I don't think the 40s, but higher. Do you think it's going to stay more?
I think it's low 30s, high 20s kind of game. I think it's a 4-quarter game. I think it's not so much the dynamic playmaker. It's going to be a disastrous play that's going to cost somebody this game. It's going to be a quarterback throws a pick six. It's going to be a sack and a fumble. Somebody scoops it up and seals the victory. I just don't see either team blowing the other one out. And I just don't think we all get caught up in all these guys and they're going to make big plays, and they are. But as you watched the Ohio State game last night, if you've watched any of these games early, even Nebraska going back to last week in Illinois, you're coming out of camp. You don't get preseason football in college football. You get it in high school. You get it in NFL. So you really don't get a chance to work the kinks out. And now you're playing a top 5 opponent. So somebody's going to make mistakes. And to me, in this big of a game on this big a stage, someone's going to make a mistake in the fourth quarter, and that's going to cost their team the game.